All right. Hey guys, Chris and Josh here tonight, and we're sitting with what I would consider probably one of the hottest books out right now on the market. I know when we've been to conventions before, um, that this year that people are just grabbing this thing as much as possible. So we brought in tonight, we've got Mark Spears, creator of Monsters through KeenSpot. Good evening, Mark. How you doing?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Good, good. Good, good. Now, Josh actually found this book first. I believe it was Rob Potsy, that kind of turned us on to it through KeenSpot. And Josh found it first and he read it. And I grabbed my copy from Potsy, the issue number one. You can see I got the Dracula cover there and just absolutely floored at the beautiful story and artwork in there. So
Thank
I guess just kind of tell us a little bit about, the background on how the book came to be and stuff. Let's start right there. So,
you. That's a good cover right there. That Dracula. That was actually the smallest print run of the covers of number one. Like norm, I think of all the five basic covers, they were all about 2,000 or something was made. That one was only 1,000 and something. So that's the harder to find one. In
yeah.
the end, it'll be the hardest to get a hold of. So that's a good cover. Um, so basically, it basically started when I got into comic books. I always wanted to work in comic books, but I was working on the other end of stuff like licensing and stuff like that for Marvel and DC and um, for I did trading cards for like Upper Deck and all that kind of stuff. So I'd always that was my goal though, was to be in comics back when I got out of high school. I had sent stuff in to like Todd McFarlane to Marvel and DC and stuff, and I just couldn't get any work. I did finally get something published around I think it was 2002 is when it actually, maybe 2001 when it was published. I did the artwork though in like 1998. It was for Image Comics interiors for Ultiman Giant Size Special Number One. It was like an anthology thing, and they made me do a Kurt Swan style for the issue. Um, so I did that. I didn't get any offers after that. I still sent in samples and stuff, just didn't work. So, but again, I was working. I got work in 2006 doing licensing stuff for Marvel statues and DC. I was a Batman concept artist where I would do turnarounds, if you know what that is, like, a straight on shot of Batman, side shot of Batman, the back of it. And they give that to the sculptors. And then back then, nothing was 3D, so it was hand sculpts and stuff. But then skip forward to I started doing monster trading cards, my own. In They came out in 2021. I did a Kickstarter for it because I'd come up with these monsters, and I was like, well, I had all these pictures done during COVID, and I was like, what can I do with all of them? There's so many, and I was like, I'll make trading cards, and I'll make a Kickstarter, and that's how I'll distribute them, is from rewards. So I did that, and the trading card series took off. People loved it. I made it very retro, very 80s. Even had in the first series, when you bought a box, you got a pair of 3D glasses. And I had some 3D cards in there and all that kind of stuff. So even had bubble gum in every pack. So I made it very 80s.
Nice.
Um, so that really, that's when my career kind of changed, because after that I was like, hey, this is cool. I could do these every year, and control your own fate a little bit, of my art career. But that took off so well. That led to, I did Spirit Halloween, the movie poster and stuff, because they saw the cards. I even, if you watch the Spirit Halloween movie, you'll even see the cards in the movie and some of my posters and stuff in the kids' room. So that kind of, it led to that kind of stuff. And in 22, I was sitting there thinking, I did another series that year called the Halloween edition of cards, and then I was like, maybe I'm good enough now. I could get into comic books because for years I wouldn't even send anything in because they were just like it's a no. Uh, so I did a thing where I did a picture of Spawn and I put it on Instagram and I had posted a thing saying, "Hey, I'd love to do a Spawn cover one day," because I never did a comic book cover at that time. Because even the old image book I did, I didn't do the cover for that. Um, and within a couple of months, I'm talking to the Spawn people about doing a Spawn cover, and I did it in 22. It came out in 23 of March, and uh, and then that led to other things. I mean, it's just like it's a snowball effect, right? So when that came out, I did four Spawn covers all in the same month. I was the spotlight artist, and that was just amazing to have. Never had a comic book come out at a store and there's four of them, on the shelves. It was awesome. Well, at that time I did that and I said, "Oh, my dream though is to do interiors, which is really the opposite in comics. You do interiors so you can eventually do covers because people don't want to do interiors, too much work. But I wanted to tell stories. I love telling stories, and I was like, maybe I could get a job doing like a one shot or maybe a mini series or something like that. So I thought about with the Monster Successes cards. I always thought, well, that would be cool as a comic book. So I sat down and started doing some pages, which you'll actually see those pages in number three. Number three was the actual first pages I ever did. So that'll be out in January and you'll see those. But I did about 20 something pages um, as samples basically because I thought, okay, I'll do this. I don't know if anything will ever happen with it, but it's samples I can show to like Todd McFarlane and other guys. So I showed Todd and he liked them. We walked through them and everything, and he was saying, "Hey, I like your storytelling here and all that." And gave me some pointers on coloring and stuff. And um, so then after that, dogs barking. Hopefully, it ain't too distracted.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're
I
good.
know it's
uh,
fine.
you know how it is, man. This, real world stuff. So after that, I they were saying, "Hey, send it over to Image." So I did. They gave me Eric Stevenson's email. I talked to him about it. He said he wasn't interested in it. So that was the first thing I've ever pitched before. So I thought, well, maybe it's a bad pitch. Maybe I didn't sum up everything. I had the pages to show, but the story, it was a kind of hard story to sell. Well, I talked to other comic book companies. Dark Horse was interested that year around June or July. They looked at it. It went all the way to the stage where the committee votes on it, what projects are going to do, um, and it didn't go through. So we were going to at that time it was going to be turned into a four-issue series, and then if that did well, we'd do the other four later on. So then it was like sitting in my back pocket. I kept working on it, so I kept having more and more pages, and I got up to eight books worth. Um, and I kept telling my wife, I said, well, if anything happens, because financially, I was like, man, I'm just not getting work. I had the four Spawn books. I had one Power Rangers book last summer, and Dark Horse gave me a cover to the Headless Horseman Halloween special. So that was all the comics I had ever done. So that was four, five, six books. So I was like, but I had this little secret in put away with the monsters. I was like, if everything gets bad financially, I'll put it on Kickstarter and just do it myself. And that's what basically happened last December. I did it through like around Black Friday till Christmas Eve. I did a Kickstarter for it. I thought it would do better than it did because I did something no one ever did. I was giving you all eight issues at one time, which usually people do like three or four issues and they're not even done yet. Mine were finished, just needed a letterer. So I had the Kickstarter go on. It did 57,000, which At first I was like, because that's not even 10,000 a book, and then you got to take out Kickstarter fees, you got to take out, printing, shipping, all that. But as far as I know, everybody else would say no, that's a huge accomplishment because for a single writer artist, no one else on any covers, that's the highest anybody's ever got in a Kickstarter. Because other and I was like, but other people have done millions, and they were like, yeah, but they have different cover artists, they have different writers, they have different this and that. So I thought, okay, that's pretty good then. So I was happy. I get the book done. It's getting ready for print. I already have test copies coming in to check the colors. This is around March of this year, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm getting some reviews back from people who've read it, and they're like, "Man, I love it." And I'm like, I hate that I put all this work in there and it's just done. I could do another Kickstarter for the other issues, but I'm like, no one else will ever see this. I only had 300 backers, so only them 300 people will ever get to enjoy it. So then I started putting it out there on Instagram. I said, hey, if you know of any publishers who are interested in a free book, they're not paying me to make it. I've already got it made. It's done. It's just sitting here waiting to be published. And all I wanted was a split on the revenue that it makes, right? So I talked to Boom, I talked to Dark Horse again, I talked to Image again, I talked to Mad Cave, I talked to Antarctic Press, I talked to Asylum. I think anybody you could ever think of. Massive talked to me twice. If they publish comics, I talked to them, and every one of them said not for us, or they just passed, or didn't even respond to me, except KeenSpot. Um, and then another company that I knew, a guy there, Roland Mand over at Silverline, but his company hadn't been distributing through Diamond yet. They just started like that month I talked to him, and they're only doing one book at that time. So I didn't think they would be able to really be able to do it because they wouldn't want to put that many covers or anything out there. So KenSpot, though, was interested. It took them a little bit back and forth to decide if they, really wanted to do it or not. And they took a gamble and they said, "Okay, let's do it. Let's do it, and we'll have it come out in September." And I'm like, "All right." So it was going to do a 50-50 split. They were handling the printing costs, so all I have to do is hand it off over to them, and they handled the rest for me. And again, we're sitting there thinking, maybe it'll do okay. We didn't think it would go negative because I have enough fans out there probably to buy it to make it at least worth printing. But again, 11,000 orders, pre-orders, which was phenomenal. We didn't really expect that. 14,000 on number two, which no other comic has done in modern history. And we're thinking number three will even be bigger than that. And then we're already into third printing. We're getting the FOC is Monday for the number one issue, and they're wanting to do a second printing of the second issue. So that's like blowing my mind. I didn't realize we would do all these other printings and all that stuff. That's but the books do that nowadays. Like Walking Dead and Something's Killing Children and stuff. But even DC does that. Like Batman already has second printings and stuff like that. So, but and I try to do a new cover if we are going to do another print because in case someone's already got it, but they're like, "Hey, man, I really like that cover. Go ahead and grab it again." So I like to make sure there's a new cover on it. So, but yeah, it's getting hard to keep track of all these second, third printings and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
again, it's blown up. It's word of mouth. It's we made the let's see, like over at Cover Price, I think it is out of 9 weeks since Monsters came out, we were on the top 10 list, seven of them,
No.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
And not with the same cover; it was different covers popping in there. We made Comic Tom's top 10 twice. We made the CBSI top 10 multiple times. So, and it's gotten me a lot more work now. I don't have to worry about work. I've got DC is throwing as much work as I want my way. Dynamite, I'm getting to do a lot of awesome covers over there. Uh, and I'm doing Spawn 77 for Todd McFarlane over at Image. So, and then still doing the monsters. I already started work on 9 and 10. And I even have a Kickstarter because I was like, I'd be stupid not to. I kept telling my wife, I said, I need to come up with a mini series to do for people to read who like monsters. Just about, it'll be 4 issues. I'm going to have the Kickstarter start on Black Friday. So next week it starts. It'll go through Christmas. And it's basically going to be about the Frankenstein character and the werewolf character. It's called the Monster and the Wolf. And it's focusing on like Frankenstein's origin because I didn't really feel like there was a way I could tell that story in monsters, even though I can do flashbacks. That story is in a very it's going down one road, right? It's about the Slayer,
Yeah.
it's about the vampire, it's about that. And if I don't want to get sidetracked doing something else, so I was like, this is a way I can tell this. It's a prequel series, basically. It's what happens 3 months before Monsters #1. So you're going to get to see my Frankenstein's different from like the Universal, the Hammer, whatever. It's something that no one's ever done before. And so I got that story, and I've got the werewolf. I always like doing stuff with him. And you don't really get to find out, like in Monsters, you realize the Slayer knows the werewolf. He knows him by his name, Clint. Why does he know that? How long has that guy been around? What's his story? So I get to focus on that in the Monster and the Wolf. I've got about 60 something, 64 pages already done. And I'm doing 4 issues. So I got about 10, 20 more pages I got to finish up. And that will probably come out around summer of next year. And then the plan would be to eventually have it come out opposite of Monsters. So if you get Monsters 1 month, the next month you might get a Monster and the Wolf #1 retail edition, and that would go around 4 months. So that's my plan. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I really wanted to get into different aspects that you can't show in Monsters because of the linear storytelling. And then it was announced today, Free Comic Book Day. So I could talk about that. We got a Monsters Zero coming out for Free Comic Book Day next. What is that? Next May, I guess it is. So
Nice.
excited about that too.
Very cool.
That is really cool.
Very
Well,
cool.
man, and I was the first one in our little group to discover your book. Potsy told me about it, so I got looking into it. I put it on my pre-order list. Got the first issue. I'm standing at the comic shop, and there's always a couple of guys that are there when I go in to get it. One of the guys is like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Look at it." And I open it up. The artwork's amazing. First of all, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm looking at a motion picture. It feels like real live people in the book. That's how great the art looks, man. And I absolutely love it. But I sold him on it. He couldn't get a copy because it was sold out. He went hunting every shop he went to, wound up going to a couple of conventions and getting copies. Bought it.
Oh, wow.
He bought multiple copies. Okay. He added #2 on his list. So he's getting it pulled. My brother saw it. He had to have it. I buy a lot of comics, Mark, and I will pick 1 or 2 covers I really like, and I'll buy that cover instead of the A cover. You see, you've only got 2 issues out. I have 4 covers. I bought multiple covers of each issue. And I'm excited for issue 3. We were talking before you got on. I was looking at my pull list for when it comes out. I've got the A cover because Frank is my guy, and I love the Frankenstein cover. But I also have the Dracula and his bride's cover on the pull list because that's just a beautiful cover. Yeah, I mean it's just
I can't wait
amazing.
for people. Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait for people to read 3 because I felt because when I made these, you know, you have to kind of edit them for, because I had all the pages done, so I had to edit them for how many pages was going to go to each book. So there's actually pages out there, and I just talked to Ken Spot about this yesterday. About I was like, hey, people are asking me, will we ever do a trade paperback, right? And I said, if we do that though, and then Ken Spot said, yo, sure, we do that. And I said, but if I do it, I want to give people who already bought the issues something even more, right? But there's a lot of unused art that I didn't use or I had to cut pages, which is kind of crazy nowadays that you think about it. But there was there was pages that I was like, when I was doing the Kickstarter, I tried to keep it down to 22 pages per issue. So there is like when you do the flashback Dracula scene, vampire scene in number 1, there's 2 pages that are just cut from the very beginning because I was like, it didn't hurt pacing or anything. It was like it was him coming out of his grave in his tomb. And then it was just a close up on the clocks. And it was going to have the guys talking about things. And I cut them because I was trying to keep it down to 22. When Ken Spot when we was going to do the second issue, I said, hey, is it possible? Can I go back in there without raising the cost of the book? Can I add pages? And they said, certainly, do what you want. And I was like, okay. So the pages that you see in number 2 of the creature and Dracula are all new pages that I did last month. So I was able to add them because when you edit it for Kickstarter, I was like, I got a self-contained audience. They won't quit if they don't like number 2. They're gonna keep reading them because they've already bought them. But with number 2, I was worried that it didn't have enough monster in it. You know, and people are buying it because you know they want the monsters, and it didn't even have Slayer in it much. And I was like, I need a little bit more bang for your buck in number 2, so I wanted to add those pages to where then it just seemed a little bit fleshed out more. Because again, number 3 is actually when like action starts. Number 3, first page is the Slayer in the fight with this big old guy that you saw in number 2, and that lasts about half the issue, and it's really good. And then there's other things that'll happen in 3, but you know, again, it's making something for a Kickstarter and making something for retail is totally different because in when it's almost like you know, in retail, and it's same thing for a TV show. You want to get people's attention to where they go, I want to tune in next week, or I want to buy issue 3. So you
Yeah.
want to make sure you leave them very happy and want and curious about where's this story going. So I I'm happy. I can't wait again for 3 and 4 is when to me the story kind of takes off, and that's when it really shines the best in my opinion. So I can't wait for people to read those. Again, number 1 and 2 and almost a little bit of 3 is all set up. You know, I'm putting all the pieces on the chessboard, and then finally I can start playing chess when issue 4 gets right. So it's I'm just thrilled people are enjoying it and liking it. And the covers, I didn't want to do too many covers, but then I was like, you know, if DC or someone else is paying me to do a cover, I might as well do a cover for my own book. If people like covers,
Yeah.
and and that's what I'm hearing. I mean, I hear this feedback is a lot of people say, Mark, I don't buy variant covers. I'm not a variant cover person, but I went out and bought 3 of yours, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, because it just means that they really enjoyed the story and they wanted to you know, buy something else of a different version of the cover. They like them. They want to collect the covers for artwork. And as I see you guys, you got your second printings there. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's the fans are driving this, and it's so great to see something like that because before before Potsy had reached out to me first about KeenSpot, before he did that, I did not know who KeenSpot was. I didn't know what they published or anything, and it's putting KeenSpot in a good light now. It's getting them a lot more exposure. But it's I had comic stores calling me when issue 1 come out, and they said, "Look, I didn't order this because I'd never bought anything from KeenSpot, but I'm having customers come in here saying they want this monsters book." And they asked me like, "Why'd you go with KeenSpot?" I said, "I went with KeenSpot because no other publisher ever wanted this." And I said, "So you got to give KeenSpot their due. He saw something there. Chris Crosby over, and then Potsy too. And without them, this doesn't exist. It would be." Because I didn't, my wife was like, "Well, why don't you do it yourself?" I didn't have the time to get distribution through like Diamond. And then what KeenSpot does, man, to have to keep up with all the dates of this has to go there, this has to be at the printers have to send it to Diamond. Oh, they need this. We got to go get this. We got to get another cover on this. It's a lot of work, and I'm so glad I got a great team behind me with KeenSpot. That can do all that kind of stuff for me and make it thrive and grow like it is. But dude, I just can't believe it's in the zone that it is right now with getting all this buzz from it. And we're hearing right now, I just heard yesterday that the orders for the third printing, they believe, because they're comparing them to when the second printing, what day, and all this kind of stuff. They believe it will outsell, like the pre-orders will outdo the second printing, the third one will, which is great because that means that a lot of shops are finally catching on, right, and ordering one. Because that's my thing is it's nice that it's selling out everywhere, and I'm hearing number 2 will be sold out. If it ain't sold out right now, it'll be sold out within days. But you do want something on the shelves where when people walk in and never heard of it, you can say, "Oh, have you heard of, this is a good selling book." So, because to me, you do need to see monsters, pick it up, open it up, and then you realize, hey, it's $5.99, but this is pretty good inside. This is the artwork. Somebody spent some time on it. So yeah, again, happy. Not in my wildest dreams though did I think it would do this, and it could, like, again, we could hit. I'm hoping my goal would be to hit 20,000 pre-orders one day for like 3 or 4, whichever issue. But it's going in that direction. It's going up. So and it's taken notice between all the comic companies out there. DC talked to me about it, and we're like, we hadn't heard anything. No other comic has been doing that, and so that and Dynamite, I talked to them about it. Was telling them our numbers for number 2. So yeah, it's great, and I can't wait. Like I said, 8 of them are done, but I'm already working on 9 and 10, and I'm hoping to get to a point where I would just pause all that other work and I would just do monsters, and it would come out every other month, or maybe
Yeah.
we even switch to every month. If people loved it, I would just work on that 24/7 myself. And I love doing it all myself. People have asked me, "Why don't you get other cover artists? Why don't you get a different writer and stuff?" Some about it, it's mine, and I love
Yeah.
doing it all myself. And that's just something. So if you don't like the art, that's my fault. If you don't like the writing, it's my fault. So
If
I
if
like
people
controlling
don't,
it all.
if people don't like the art
I
and
mean, I've
don't
heard
like
there's some
the
people.
writing, something's wrong with them. Something's wrong. It's great art and it's
I've
great.
heard some feedback.
Yeah.
I've heard some feedback. A couple people saying, I remember the first issue came out, and I was really nervous because I was like, I don't know how. I, I've seen 300 people liked it, but I don't know when it goes to thousands of people. And I saw a review that day that one guy was saying he doesn't understand the art, the writing was horrible and all this. And I'm like, you just can't please everybody, right? That's the way it's gonna
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
So I tried to make sure I enjoy it. So the story is going to go in the direction I wanted it to go, and I don't let other, like fans or something influence that, because I tell people, and you'll see in the issue too, if you've read it already, like there's some fantasy elements in there. The last couple pages, you see, hey, Mark
Yeah.
switched over to some fantasy, and but people call it like a horror series or a scary series. When you actually start reading all of them, when you get up to 4 and 5 and stuff, you'll see it's a mixture of things. Everything that I liked from when I was a kid. You're going to have science fiction in it. There's 80s science fiction. There's going to be
Nice.
fantasy. There's going to be superhero kind of stuff in there. That's with the Slayer, and there's other things that are coming. So it's almost like my Masters of the Universe property, where you could throw anything in there, right? You can put fantasy, sword and sorcery, science fiction, superhero, and it still fits. So yeah, that's why it was and you'll see after you read a couple more issues when they get released, it was a hard pitch to get to other people, because the way I described it was, I said, hey, it's like Game of Thrones with monsters. There's this faction over here with the vampire. There's a faction over here with the overmen and stuff, and they're both wanting the same thing. And then you got the Slayer in the middle, and some of his friends, and that's how I would pitch it. Don't think it came off a good pitch, but yeah, I think people are enjoying it, and man, I can't wait for you to meet some of these other characters that are going to pop up in the next couple of issues and stuff. So I do like that it's every other month. It gives me a chance to breathe and do these other covers for the other printing. But I'm like, man, I want them to read the next thing so I can talk about that. I don't want to spoil nothing. And so, yeah, again, never thought it would be as successful as it is, but man, it's amazing. I can't wait to see where this journey is going to go.
Well, Chris, and
Well, Mark, with me, I love.
sorry, Chris.
Oh,
What I
yeah,
was gonna say, Chris, is with most of our books, we read them and we peel that tape off and we seal them up, and they sit in our collection. This one I've opened up, I've read it multiple times already. It's just that good.
Oh,
I've enjoyed
yeah,
it. I keep going
yeah,
back to it.
that is
yeah.
exactly what I wanted. Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
and with me, one of the things I like to do is, and obviously, we do this YouTube channel because we love sharing comics with people. I love sharing comics with people, and I love when I get really excited about a book. And this year, there's been a few books that I've gotten really excited about, but I have to say, this one, as soon as I read it, I'm like, man, you got to go get this book. You got to read it. I don't care how you get to a convention, go somewhere, get it. Go find Potsy with KeenSpot because I guarantee you he's got a
He'll
copy
have
somewhere. You know, Actually, I think that's where mine came from. The first one I got it from Potsy in Fayetteville. So,
Well, the thing is, and I do like it because people are telling me the same thing. They're saying that, hey, I've read this multiple times. I don't do that. I'll read my Batman and I put it away, right? And they're saying, hey, I'm reading this again. And I love that, because you're going to realize I'm taking you on some twists and turns in these first 8. And you will actually, after you read number 8, let's just put it this way, you will get back all of them out and you will reread, because I take you for something that you'll be like, wait, I didn't see that coming. And then you'll reread number 1 and you're like, yes, it was there the whole time. I missed it. And I like doing that, because when I go watch a movie, I can't stand, like, when I'm in the movie theater and 15 minutes in, I know exactly what's going to happen now. The guy's going to go save the girl, and then this is going to happen and all that. So I deliberately set this all up, and I kept reading, like, I would get my wife to look at it, and I said, am I giving too much away? Do you know where I'm taking this? But then I don't like a movie where a guy will walk out at the end and you're like, oh, I was behind it all. And you never had a clue of that. Don't do me that way either. I like to put little breadcrumbs and then try to take you in one direction. And I'm like a magician. You think I'm going over here looking at the right hand, but over here on the left hand is the real secret, and you didn't see it coming. So
nice.
I love twists and turns, because I think people's time is the most valuable thing someone has, is their time, right? And if you're going to put in your time to read the book, then I want to give you such a great experience that you want to go and reread it again, and be like, wow, that was fun. I want to see where he's doing now with it. So I can't wait to because everybody like the Kickstarter people have got caught up with number 8. I can't wait to see everything that's happening after 8. But the whole story, the premise of the story, I think that whole thing will probably be solved around maybe 30 issues or something. So that's why I wouldn't mind going monthly with it eventually if we could. 6 issues a year is not enough. I mean, it's tough. Uh, so I don't know. But yes, this first chapter, basically, I call it like season 1. The 1 through 8 is like a first season, and it'll end in like a cliffhanger. But number 9, I believe, we'll have coming out right after, the on the same 2-month structure. So to come out right after that, a month after a month skip, it would come out. But I'm in the point though. I'd love to tell this now that I got an audience that wants to read it, man. I would love nothing better than just to sit down and crank these out, because I do have a lot of a long-term vision of where this is going, and I want to take people there and get to that place. I'm enjoying the here and now, but man, I got so much that I want to take these characters to, that I just can't wait to share with everybody. But oh, and a thing about, I've told people about like the Slayer, right? Because a lot of people, you'll see more of him this next issue, number 3. But on him, I'm trying to keep him kind of like Wolverine was in the 80s to me. Very mysterious. You didn't know his past. When you find out too much about a character, it gets rid of the mystery and mystique of them. And I love it when people have theories and stuff like that, and they're going, well, maybe he's really this guy, or maybe he looks like this and all that. So I vowed I'm not going to show his face to the reader until maybe the very last book of the whole thing, right? Like when I decide to end it, okay, if you want to see who he was. Because to me, Boba Fett, I loved him in the 80s, right? Empire Strikes Back, and even Return of the Jedi, and they threw him in the pit. But when you sit there and say he's a clone of the stormtroopers, and you take his helmet off, now you lost all the magic, right? Even Darth Vader, when I was a kid and I saw Return of the Jedi, and it was neat when he took the helmet off, but I mean the magic went away, right? Because you didn't know what he looked like underneath that. I love the little hints, and I might do that, where you saw the back of his head and Empire Strikes Back and stuff like that. But I think there's something to be said about the mask, and Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, all those characters are really neat. But once you take the mask off of them, it's not the same.
Yeah, I think that's where they messed
so
up.
I'm going to do that. So you don't know.
When they took Kylo Ren's mask
So
off,
that's
where
one
they
thing
messed up.
Yeah, they did. Honestly, that's I get that a lot. I hear that they're saying right when that came off, the movie lost it for them. So, but yeah, I'm going to do that to where you don't know what race the Slayer is. You never see his skin. You don't know, and you can't hear his accent or anything. So I'm basically leaving like an open book for what people are projecting on him, but you will know more about his story. He does have a very interesting story, and you will see where that's going. Because I have a little bit there. But on the Slayer, I even want to go back and do flashbacks showing you more of the Slayers and where he come from, the code that they have, and all that kind of stuff. And also, you don't really know, is this Slayer that you're seeing in modern day in the 80s, is that the same Slayer that was alive in 1898, right?
Yeah.
We think it might be. Is it? Is it his son? Is it someone else? So I try to leave things open like that, to where open to interpretation, so people can go, man, because that's what's fun to me, is when you can be thinking about the book even when you're not reading it, and you're just thinking, what if the Slayer is really this guy or that guy, or what if he's, so I leave that open ended. But I'm not going to be like Lost, the TV show, where at the end nothing's ever answered. I can't stand that. You gotta have some answers. You're right.
You got to
So
wrap it up with a nice little bow when you get
yeah,
done. Yeah.
you can't just have everything be a magic box and then never say, oh well, I'm just gonna just leave it open. No. So but yeah, that's where I'm going with it. And I again I can't wait to catch everybody up to it. But yeah, man, again, I'm just thrilled. That's exactly what I want is people to reread it and they're like, man, because you get a little something out of it and get entertained. It's just like a TV show. If you watch a really, really good TV show, you go, man, I want to watch it again before the next one comes out. Just to catch up. You just enjoy it so much. So and maybe that's what'll happen with monsters one day. Wouldn't that be something if they turn it into a TV show?
That would be
That would
cool.
be awesome.
That would be awesome.
All right.
That'd be
I would
awesome.
love that.
So, Mark, this started as trading cards, right? How many sets are there, and how can we get our hands on them?
Okay, the first ones came out in 21 and it was called Mark Spears Monsters Series 1. Let me see if I don't know if I have a box sitting around. I don't have the Series 1 box sitting here. And then the year later, I did series basically this is kind of like a series 2, but it's called Mark Spears Monsters, the Halloween edition.
Awesome.
That's probably yep. And this came out in 22. And then the series 2 that followed up from the 21 edition came out last let's say December of 23. So almost a year ago. And those you can get on Amazon right now. If you go to markspears.store, it takes you to my Amazon and it's on there. I don't think I have any on Walmart right now. I think they sold out. But there's still some out there. I want to say there's probably around 200 boxes or so left. They're selling pretty quick. We usually sell out before a year. So the series 1 sold out within a year of its release by the next Halloween. And then the Halloween edition, like I have that box there, but I think I'm probably sold out everywhere on that. Sometimes I go in my garage and I find like a box that I took to a con. I'll find a box or two in that, and I'll send them on to Amazon or something. But you can get those. I plan on doing because the trading card communities want some more, so I'm thinking about doing another. It'll be called Halloween Edition 2025, and it'll come out next year on Halloween. And I'm going to do some of those. I'm going to include in that like a subset of covers without the dressing and stuff, so you can see all the covers and stuff like that. But yeah, I plan on doing some more. But yeah, right now you can get those on Amazon. And if you see me, if I am at a convention or something, sometimes I'll have some packs. And let's see. Wait. Here's a Series 1 pack. I just found those the other day. So this actually was
That's
a
cool.
thin pack. It only had about 8 cards or so, but it has a stick of gum inside. And I made these trying to made them look like the 80s. The newer packs, I don't see. Oh, and there was a alternate pack was a Frankenstein
Nice,
pack.
the Frankenstein.
So,
Very cool.
yep. And then you could get printing plates in them and stuff like that. Signed cards. Here's some printing plates. If y'all know what those are, they actually use these to print the cards, so it's a 1 of 1.
Nice.
But I don't see another pack. Normally, right now, when I do packs, I make them thicker so you could actually sell the pack by itself. Because these the old packs would retail if you sell just one of these, that would be like $5. Well, that's hard to sell on Amazon and stuff like that because of the shipping and all that kind of stuff that they do. So normally a pack now, I put 20 cards in a pack and it like, it's $7.50 or $10 or something like that. So sometimes you'll find on Amazon where I have loose packs or where they're not in boxes, but they're also sold by the boxes as well. I was looking for some more. I don't see them. Don't have everything in here, but yeah, you can get some of those if you want some good stocking stuffers or to collect some of the cards. But yeah, that's kind of where it all started. Let's see if I have trying to find some cards right here. And you'll see, like, sometimes I'll change things up from the cards where on the back of them, though, I had write ups and stuff. Well, let me see. Yeah, like, okay, so here's the card. This is from series 2
Nice.
that's out right now. This is like my clown. This is the retro card where it looks like a card from the 80s. It has that old cardboard
Oh
look.
yeah.
Yeah.
These actually cost more to make than the newer cards. It's weird because they got that retro feel. So it even has some like distressing around it, you know, to look distressed around the
Nice.
corners.
Give that old look, yeah.
And then the back has little write ups that I wrote.
They're
So a lot of
funny.
times they will be, yeah, Mr. Funny Bones. So a lot of times that gives me ideas to play around where I'll be like, okay, this is this character, and if I put him in the comic, you know, that's probably what he'll be like. Um, so, which actually, this guy right here is going to be in the free comic book day issue, Mr. Funny Bones.
Nice.
So a lot of times it's a training ground for my characters to where if I go, okay, if this resonates well or if people like that one, that might go into the comic. Sometimes I'll change the names and stuff because I'll be like, I'll come up with a better name later, especially if it's a human person or something like that. Um, but like from the get go, which if you've read number 2, you realize Dracula killed Vlad the Impaler, Dracula,
Yes.
right? And from the
Yeah.
get go, I
Yeah.
was always saying that even though I call him Dracula, my guy just uses that name. He's not Dracula. That's just the name he goes by. He has another name, and you'll find that later on down the line in the series. But basically, there is a Dracula in that universe, the Vlad the Impaler Dracula, and that's why he chops his head off in the issue 2, just to show you that this is not your father's Dracula. You know, this is not Bram Stoker's
Yeah.
Dracula and all that. So, um, but yeah, and that's you know, I wanted that to just distance myself when I was researching things to do for the comic and for the cards and all that. I was like, when you throw the name Dracula on something, a lot of times it just already has this preconceived notion, right? Where if I buy a comic book and it's got Dracula, and I'm like, oh man, another Dracula comic book. You know, what are they going to be doing with this? You know, and it's just not really that good. And I like Dark Shadows. If you remember that TV show, Barnabas Collins,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's the best Dracula that wasn't Dracula, right? He was basically Dracula, but he had a
Yes.
different name and a different origin and stuff. And I knew I wanted to set my Dracula to be a more like in the Bram Stoker novel. They said he was a necromancer, and I was like, oh, what if he is more like that than just a regular vampire, right? Because that, you know, maybe because he's got to have power for something. So that's my version of this guy. I call him Dracula right now because that's what everybody else will call him in the comic book. But he's a necromancer, and he has some secrets. And man, when you get into those secrets, it's going to be good. So yeah, but yeah, the cards again. I started that in the cards. I think when you first read the card backs on the even series 1, it says like Dracula or how he's known, you know, or something like that. I'll say, or which is not his real name and stuff like that. So that was a notion I had at the very beginning. Um, but yeah, man, the cards are great. I love doing those. I think the cards will be more successful now because of the comic book, honestly. And I can't wait to do the next one because I can actually tie them in together more now. Now that the comic exists, I'll make sure, you know, maybe we give little hints of where the story's going. You know, I used to love Marvel Universes and the DC one, the Who's Who, you know, where
Yeah.
you would just look in there and it would have the little biographies of the characters. So I can use that now in the cards to, like, give little clues and hints of some characters. So I'll definitely do that now that I got a bigger audience looking at this stuff. But the cards were nominated. Series one was nominated by, or not nominated. It was just Beckett Magazine, who does the most sports cards. They said it was the second best horror series of all time. And I was like, wow. And we got that. They told us that about last year or something inside their magazine. So yeah, I'm thrilled. I can't wait to do another. I would have done it this last year, but a playing card game was going to come out using some of my artwork, and they were like, "Oh man, it'll confuse people," and they were doing some crowdfunding for that. So I said, "Hey, I'll just wait," and so I didn't do a card set this last year, which I think that's good though. I skipped 1 year. Now it can be even bigger and better for 25. So.
And I think it will be bigger and better with the comics. More people know about it now. I'm going back looking for the cards now because I would love to have a set. Love to have a set set up.
Yeah, I think they're selling better now. Usually around Christmas they sell really good, anyways. But I do think by the end of the year we'll be sold out of all the series too. Yeah, which is great news. Again, I think on those I make them kind of limited to where there's not that many. When we get boxes in, I think the boxes that those came in, I want to say around 500-600 boxes. So I mean that's not that many, to sell in a year's time. So yeah, I think we'll sell out, and then this next series that'll come out for next year, I'm thinking now that we got distribution through KeenSpot and stuff, I might even get them in comic book stores. Which would be cool, and try to pack to where, if you're at the counter about to buy one of my books, he goes, "Hey, you want to pack a card? Only like $1.99." You'd be like, "Well, sure, throw it in there." $1.99. So I want to get the price down for retail, and have some cool things like that, with like the tie-ins with the comics and stuff like that would be really cool. So
What is that?
I just went and found them on Amazon, Josh. That's the Series 2 cards. You see
yep,
it?
that's it. That's them
Nice.
right there.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. It's a really great price, actually. I'm looking at the price, and yeah, you can't beat that.
No,
So
you're getting, I think it's 100 cards. You have a
yeah,
chance to get a printing plate, which is worth hundreds, really, sometimes on eBay. Um, and they are there's signed cards in there. There's rare cards. Like I even have. I'm trying to see if I have any up here, but like foil cards. There's foil cards in every box. You'll get foil. There's gonna be gold cards. So it's got a wide assortment of different things that are fun to get. Um, and there's also Wicked of Oz cards, a little different than the monster ones. I made them at the same time. What's cool about that is there weren't only 200 boxes made of those. And I think it's around the same price or something. Maybe it's a $10-$20 higher. You get a printing plate in every box of that, because there's more boxes than there are. I mean, more printing plates than there are boxes. So you might get two in one box. So those are really cool cards. You can see those. Like here's the Wicked of Oz cards. It still don't have a write
Very
up,
cool.
but it has the characters and
Patchwork
stuff.
Girl
And
of
it's a
Oz.
retro.
Yes.
Yep.
yes.
It's and here's now these are the Wicked of Oz, but you can kind of see here's a chrome. This is what the chrome foil looks like. So the monsters
Oh,
is
that's
printed
beautiful.
by the same people. It's a thicker card. It can even bend it, and it's a chrome. So I like those. Trying to see if there's any other cool thing in here. But a regular base card is, I'll show you one of those. Doesn't have, I didn't do any logo this last time, just so you could see the art totally. So there's no logo on the front. It's a thicker card. On the back is, bright yellow and green, versus if you look at let me get a retro one. The back is the cardboard, and it's a little bit thinner card, and that's one of the Wicked ones. But the monsters is just like that. It's just not got Wicked of Oz on it. It's just monsters. But but yeah, I think the audience will get bigger for that. I can't wait. But yeah, I have fun with the cards too. I think those are
Well,
really
now
neat, and I think they'll tie in together. And not many people are doing cards and comics at the same time. You know,
now you got me wondering, is there a Wicked of Oz story that you could tell in a comic?
I pitched that idea to a couple of places. It was either earlier this year or last year, and no one took me up on it. So I thought about doing it myself, but then I was like, is there a way I could actually just incorporate that into Monsters? I already have the Mad Hatter in Monsters. You'll see him show up. Now, is he just a crazy guy that calls himself the Mad Hatter? Is there actually a Alice in Wonderland, thing like that? I can't say yet because that's part of the story. But I don't know. I thought about taking a few of these characters because the one I like the most, let's see if I have a card of him, is the Tin Man. Of course, the Wicked Witch is great too. There's the Mad Hatter. The Mad Hatter is actually, so that guy does show up in Monsters. He's kind of like my Joker, um, and my you know just crazy insane person. But the Tin Man,
Mark, I'm looking at the order right now on Amazon Prime for The Wicked of Oz, and I see the Tin Man
oh yeah,
on the cover of the box. That's
that's it.
really cool. Yeah.
I like him. He looks like almost like an old man. I just love it. When I come up with that design, I was like, that's the whole reason I did him first, and that's the whole reason I messed around and did the whole cards because of him. So I was actually thinking the other night, is there a way to incorporate that into Monsters? And I was like, I could always have him be a robot, and they just call him the Tin Man. He looks kind of like that. So I do have robots in Monsters.
Obviously, you grew up liking the things we liked. I mean, I'm sure you watched The Wizard
Oh
of
yeah.
Oz growing up all the time.
Yes, Wizard of Oz, anything in the '80s. Like I said, that's why you'll see. It's funny when you look at monsters, you can see GI Joe references, He Man references, $6 Million Man references.
Yep.
You'll see A-Team. You'll see all these references to things because anything that you love, I threw it in a big melting pot and just stirred it up and said, okay, here's what I would do if I had all this to play with. And I love Thundercats, and that over at Dynamite, I'm getting to do Thundercats, Silverhawks, things like that. And I'm like, oh man, that's just I love that stuff. So, but yeah, again, anything. I think Monsters is a really neat place where I can put almost anything in it and it still fits, because in the world there isn't which you'll see this conversation, these kids will talk about it number 4 I think, but they say how if superheroes existed you'd see them on the news, that's so they don't exist.
Yeah.
But these monsters and stuff are hidden. That's why like Dracula's walking out in Times Square and everybody knows that he exists. So I try to have it to where these secret things can exist there, and it still would make sense and be kind of grounded in some kind of reality, but and still fantastical and interesting, to where it ain't just the same, story that it's something, you know, with great characters and their motivations and all that kind of stuff, and visually look good. Like the Slayer, I love his look. I think that just works. I'd always heard you need to design a character that if you saw him in silhouette, you know who it is. Now, like Batman,
Yeah.
who that is. Superman silhouette, you can kind of know who that is. So I was like, hey, that works with this guy. I can, when you see him in a dark alley somewhere, you know exactly who that's going to be. So that worked out good. But yeah, there's no telling who might show up in Monsters. I might do something like that because I really like those characters. Like I said, it's a good concept, so I might try to throw in Tin Man into Monsters. So,
Nice. Nice.
A
and I see
whole,
that Transformers Optimus Prime poster. I love Optimus Prime and Transformers as well.
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah. That's how our friend Damon Bat drew that for us. He's a really great artist. He's actually the artist for Sergeant Slaughter. He does all of his artwork. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that
So
looks great. I thought that was like a print or a cover for one of Skybound stuff. That's how good that looks. It's awesome.
yeah, yeah. He's a really great artist. We love him. So
All
And I
right.
love Sergeant Slaughter, man. I'm a big wrestling fan too from the 80s. I love 90s.
yeah.
Talking about the art, Chris, that was a good segue. Mark, I have compared your artwork to Alex Ross. Okay. That's what I tell people. That's how I tell them what it looks like. I am interested in knowing, can you give us any secrets? Can you tell us how you work? How
Yeah.
what your work is like on the art?
Yeah. Some people do compare my stuff to Alex Ross, and I always say, man, if Alex Ross finds out about that, he's gonna be ticked. I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, he's I grew up looking at Alex Ross stuff, so that's like way up there to me. And he's a traditional painter and fantastic and everything. Um, I do all my stuff digital with my Wacom tablet. You can kind of see my tablet
Yeah.
over in this
Yeah.
area. Um, and I'm gonna turn it on. You can see my stuff, man. So it's and I use here's my pen that I use. So basically, the way I work is I'll come up with something. Sometimes I'll sketch it out. Sometimes I'll thumbnail it. Some like on a piece of paper. Sometimes it's on the computer. But then I'll come up with the concept of what I need to do. Like the cover, like the trick or treat cover. Uh, and what I do is Alex Ross uses real life people for his models and everything. Um, I had read about that years ago, because there's a guy that kind of looks like Superman that he uses, and all those characters. When he did the thing, I think he even had some kind of action figure made because just to look like his thing or something. Because when you do something that looks kind of realistic. You're trying to make it look. I guess my stuff tries to look like 70% real. Something like that. It you need the lighting. Lighting is everything in trying to make something look real, especially with colors. So Alex uses uh, human models, his friends and stuff. Well, I don't have that many friends, and none would pose for me. So I would, because years ago I was like, how can I? Because I was developing my style, and I was like, how can I progress this though? Because I need models. And there wasn't so I tried action figures sometimes, and that'll work. It works for certain characters like I have this out from the other day. Somebody was looking at it. So I did a Violator cover. This is Violator from Spawn, and I had no reference really. They showed me a few images, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do that with the lighting and everything. So I bought this guy, and then I could use it more for lighting. I can shine a flashlight on it, see how everything would react to it, stuff like that. But so what I did was years ago I decided, okay, what if I did 3D models, and then I could actually put whatever lighting, whatever view I want, and hit it, and then I could use that as a reference. So that's what I started doing, and I started doing that around when I started doing the cards and stuff. So around 20, and that really worked because so like if like the Dracula cover with the blood on it from number one. So basically that I have this model that I refer to as my Dracula model. It don't really look like that though, because I'm not a great modeler, but I got it close enough to where I know the references when I start painting, right? So I can go from there. So that's how I do everything. So when it takes me like when I do a DC cover and they say, "Hey, can you do this character?" and I've never done it before, it takes me longer because then I have to figure out, okay, uh, what does that character look like? Because you can't make all the humans look the same, right? Superman without his no mask and everything with Bruce Wayne can't look like the exact same person. You can get away with that when you're just drawing your pencil style, right? You can, Jim Lee's Bruce Wayne looks just like Jim Lee's Clark Kent, without the glasses. But when you're painting, you can't really do that. So I have to come up with what they look like. Sometimes it's kind of easy if it's just clothes and stuff. You don't really need references for that, because like Superman's shirt, uh, you know, you don't really need a 3D model reference or anything as much as just a shirt, as long as it's skin tight or something. But what I'm talking about is like when you have like a creature or a monster, to keep it consistent, you need some kind of reference that you can do that with, and that's why I do the 3D models. So I have one of like when I do Spawn, and when I do Batman, or when I do Dracula and all that kind of stuff. Um, and then that way, when I'll render that, where I'll get a certain feel of what the scene's going to look like, render that, take it over to I use Photoshop mainly, and then I'll look at that, and then I'll start painting, because then I have enough reference to go, okay, I know how the light's going to hit, I know where the darks are going to be, I know where the lights are going to be, and all that. And then I add little Mark Spears magic with the colors and all that kind of stuff, and try to make it look as good as possible. But I also use, if you zoom up into my artwork, I'll use a canvas just because I love when something's realistically painted, like a traditional painting. I love the grooves and stuff the canvas gives. I don't like the slickness of digital art. So that's why I use that. I use it almost in everything I do, to where if you look at a cover, you could zoom up on the cover or see it online. If you looked at it there, you'll see that there's these little dots and stuff. That's from the canvas. But when those are made really big, the covers and the comics inside, and they're reduced down so greatly, so a lot of times you can't even see that it was on a canvas or something. But that's my method. I thought about posting some things online and showing everybody. Of course, I also don't want everybody to imitate me, and then I don't have any work.
Right, right.
You show everybody your secrets, they're like, oh man, then I'll have like, I'll have 30 kids doing it better than me. So but luckily all that stuff that I made is my own, to where they don't have their Dracula model. But I'm sure you could actually show my artwork to somebody, and some kid could make a better model than I can of my Dracula and that the creature, man. I have such a bad 3D model of that creature, but again, I make it work, because you just need the reference. You just need a slight reference, and then you can say, okay, now I know what'll happen there. But that's why my stuff can look. I don't think it looks. It's not photorealistic, but it looks realistic enough. I think Alex Ross stuff looks so much more realistic, but I don't mind it looking a little like it. I like to play in the world of comic book art and realistic art, right? And I think I got a little medium in there. So, but yeah, I think my style's getting to where people look at it and they go, "Hey, that's Mark Spears did it. I don't even have to sign it. I don't even have to put my name on it anymore."
Oh, I'm already looking. I've seen I think it's Superman or Action Comics you're doing a couple covers for. They're already
Yeah.
on my pull list. Yeah,
I'm
I've
doing
already seen.
in December. I've got 2 Action Comics coming out. I've got 2 Green Lanterns coming out that are connecting covers. Really
Yeah,
cool if you get them both. And then I did a Superwoman. They got a Superwoman special, and it's got
yes.
Lobo on it. I really like that one. I think it's a 1 in 25 though, so it might be harder to get. And then I also have Apex Thundercats. It's a one shot Thundercats coming out from Dynamite. And I think there's some more Dynamite stuff. I just turned in 6 covers to Dynamite, so I'm not sure if it's come out in December or January. And all kinds of stuff, Silverhawks and
It's a
Vampirilla, and
let's
I
see,
did a Johnny
December
Quest
4th.
Space Ghost too. It's a what?
December 4th. Thundercats
Oh,
8.
okay, yeah.
Yep, there
So
it
yeah,
is.
I like that one. And
Yeah.
then there is a like a Johnny Quest Space Ghost is coming out. I'm doing all like cover A, I think, to all four of those. I got to work on the next one here soon. But trying to think. In January, there's like Deadly Tales of Gunslinger, Shazam, DC versus Vampires. I did these a couple months back, and Silverhawks. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, in January, of course, will be Monsters number. I tell you, it gets here before you know it, man. Monsters number
Yeah.
3 will be out, and trying to think what else I got. I've just turned in a Green Lantern cover. I don't know when it comes out, maybe around February or March. And I just turned in a what else was it? Oh, a Bat Ultimate. No, Absolute Batman, but it's a store exclusive.
Yay.
But, I
Oh
was
man.
excited because I was like, man, I want to draw this big Batman, right? He's
Yeah,
huge.
he's massive.
And I was like, that'll be so fun because I can, in my style to make it look like he's gigantic. So my wife was coming in going to look at it, and I said, hold on, you don't even know who Absolute Batman is. So I said, I got to set it up for you. I said, because you'll look at it and say, Mark, his anatomy's wrong. And I said, it's like Mr. Incredible meets Batman. And then she looked at me and
Yeah,
said,
I haven't thought about that's a good one.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
that'll be
Oh,
out probably March or something. I'm sure they'll be around on eBay and stuff. I don't know what store it was. I think the store might be overseas, like at the UK. I'm not sure, but I just got picked to do I'm doing some more Green Lantern covers, and I'm doing what's it called? A Justice League. I just turned in a Justice League where I got to do the race of Flash and Superman.
nice.
So I was happy that because I had all those issues. Like if he ever raced in the '80s, I had that. So
Yeah.
very
So
thrilled about
here's
that.
that Superwoman Lobo cover.
Yes, I really like it.
Yeah,
There
that's a
on
great
that,
cover.
you can look if you look near his. Let's see, is that his right hand? Underneath his right hand, there's a coin in the background over there.
Yes,
That's a Harvey Dent coin.
nice.
I tried to hide little that I try to hide them to where DC doesn't even see them, so I don't have to get clean. And but yeah, I did things like that. I even on that one on his bike, there's little like stitches of numbers like where 1 2 3 4 crossed out, then 1 2 3 4 like that. So it's 5, and it added up to what cover that was on my DC schedule. So I
Oh,
think
no.
that was number 16 that I did at that time. So yeah, I love little callbacks and stuff like that. And in when we do a trade paperback to Monsters, I told them, I said, hey man, there's a lot of secrets people don't know about Monsters, of little why I name things certain ways, and little Easter eggs. And I said I would love to if we do a trade, I can explain a lot of those Easter eggs, and stuff like that. So uh that'll be really cool. Someone had asked me in a podcast about a week ago about in the first issue there's this kid who's missing, which that's a story that plays out over so many issues. But his name is Billy Kinderman, and they were like, is that a reference to something? Is that like a little kid that beat you up when you was little and stuff? And I was like, no. I said Kinderman is actually the cop from Exorcist. That was his
Yeah.
name. Last name was Kinderman. So I have
Yeah.
things like that I want to share when we do a trade paperback that'll be really kind of cool. But yeah, I love things like that where you read something and then you go, oh, and then you can find this other information, go back and say, oh yeah, I see it. So that's kind of cool. But I do
That's
hide things
awesome.
like I hid the Harvey Dent coin, and I had more time then. Lately, man, they're just flooding me with covers, and I'm just like, here you go. What's the next one? And whew. But man, I'm enjoying it. I mean, come on, who wouldn't? You get to do characters that they grew up with and love and have an affection for, and then the monsters, man. I tell you, that's but I enjoy drawing a monsters cover or interiors more than I do even the DC Dynamite and Spawn stuff, because it's your own stuff, and it's just it's just great to be able to do that. And if I want to kill a character off because I'm tired of drawing them, I just kill them off. That's nice.
Man,
You have that control. It's your world.
I'm looking at these DC covers, and they're killing me because they put a lot of them as 1 in 25s. They made them hard to get.
I at first I didn't like that when I first started working at DC, August of 23. All of my stuff was incentive covers, and I was like, oh, that's tough because I can't go tell my mom I do DC Comics because she can't go to the store and see it, right? Because no one will have those on the stand. But it's a thing where they did start putting some of my stuff on regular covers, like there was a Green Lantern War Journal, John Stewart, that was a regular cover, Neil Before Zod. But a lot of those at the beginning, it's going to be an incentive, and something happens and they change it at the end because they're like, we decided not to do an incentive, so we changed to normal cover. But yeah, I have no say in that when they say, hey, we want you to do this cover or that cover. The pay is the exact same. I would prefer it being a cover that everybody can get. That's just what's fun, right?
Yeah.
But incentive covers do get, like my Lobo cover that I did for 1066. That got the most buzz and fame when I did it of my career at that time because it made like a number 5 on a hot 10 list and all that. Um, and it was going for like $60 or something at one time. So that was really neat. So I was like, okay, incentive covers ain't too bad if they go up in value. If you got an incentive cover 2 months later, it's worth $10. That's actually not a good thing. That means people didn't want that incentive cover. So
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I wished it wasn't. I think the Action Comics and the Green Lantern stuff that's coming out in December is all shelf covers,
Yes, it
not
is. I'm
incentives.
looking right now, and those are connectors. Yeah,
Yeah,
those are
yep,
connectors,
those
and they
connect.
look amazing. They look
Those
really.
are actually the last thing I did. So they're the ones that came out in October and in November, first week of November of Action Comics 1 in 25 incentives. Those
Right.
were done a year and 3. So you can look at them and go, some people were like, well, Mark looked like he phoned this in compared to the other ones coming out. It's because those are a year and like 3 months old. What comes out in December, I just did that in September. So those are more fresh and with my latest kind of style and everything. So um I don't really have nothing that's been sitting around that hasn't come out except over at Spawn. There's a few that they've held on for a year or so, that haven't come out yet. But the DC stuff now, everything I do is coming out pretty soon after I do it, within like 2 or 3 months. So
Nice. Yeah, there's some amazing stuff. That's why I keep looking down. I got my phone and I've got Mark
oh
Spears
man,
pulled up on my League of Comic Geeks app, looking at all the covers.
I use that
Yeah.
all the time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do it to keep up with my own stuff. And dude, I remember the first time I'm sitting there and I'm just waiting month after month. I can't wait till my name will be on that League of Comic Geeks, right? And I just can't wait.
Yes.
March of 20, well, that was like January of 23 because the solicits came out and my name showed up and it was going to be for Spawn. I was so excited, and but I still get a thrill, dude, to see it whenever something pops up on the League of Comic Geeks, and I'm like, oh man, because it's just the fanboy in me, um, and I can't wait. I love it when I go to a comic book store and I see my stuff on the shelf. It's just hard to believe. Feels like a dream, like just not a reality. But yeah, it's great. But yeah, I
That's
use
awesome.
League of Comic Geeks all the time.
Yeah, it's a great app. We use it, and actually our store is connected to it. So I mean
Oh, that's
they
better. So
pull
if you did
str
a full list, it'll go right to your store. If you say,
Yep.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so obviously Mark Spears Monsters is in my pull list with the subscribe ready for issue number 3. So this has been great though. I've really enjoyed listening to you and talking to you. Like I said, we're excited about this comic. I mean, it's like I said, this one this year, I think It's in my top three this year. Ultimate Spider-Man, Absolute Batman, and Monsters, my top three
Wow,
this year. So
what a man! What that's just amazing to put me in a list of those top three. Man, that's just amazing. Again, I just can't believe it. To be able to get with something that's not a Marvel or DC book or even an Image book or a Boom Studios book, it's just amazing, and it shows you the power though that a comic can have. And I love this for all creators because you don't have to be a famous creator. You don't even have to go with a big name publishing company to get people excited for your book and then it become a success, right? And a big hit because again, I didn't think it would happen. I thought, again, if I could sell a few, but I never thought it could be a hit, and it's become one. Even at this level, if we only sold 14,000 from here on out, it's considered a huge hit in the comic industry. So that's just amazing. But yeah, it shows all the creators out there who go, and especially with Kickstarters, because this was all started with a Kickstarter. I've heard it's changing comics and it's changing Kickstarter. It's changing to where people refer to Kickstarters now as not just throwaway, like, oh, I'm just buying it over there. It's not ever going to be worth not anything. One of my Kickstarter comics that I sold for $22 sold for $700 on eBay.
Wow.
I didn't get that money, but somebody did. But I loved it because, and people have been, some of the Kickstarter guys have been selling their stuff on eBay, and I say more power to them. That's great because they thought, hey, Mark, this might be something, so I'm going to get it and read it, and then they're done with it. They want to sell it. That's great. They backed me from the start. If they can make money off of it, perfect. But that's the thing. So it's changed Kickstarters and it's changing comics because again, it's like the underdog story, no advertising, not even a dime spent on advertising, and it's a book that everybody's talking about. And I don't know if it would have happened if I hadn't have done covers for like DC or hadn't have done covers for Spawn and stuff like that. I don't know what drove it at the beginning, because I bought a previews and looked through it. I couldn't even find monsters in it, man, because it's that the previews is this thick, and it's always not by alphabetical order or something. So I couldn't find it in there. They sent me, I think Potsy or somebody sent me a picture of it, that they took, but it's just I was like, no one's gonna find this, and I hated that. But again, it's just it's blown up, and man, I love it. I love being able to do it and to change comics for the better. It's great. I'm loving that comic shops like it. Uh, the price point, it's kind of high. I was like $5.99, but this is what I was told by KeenSpot is like, hey, stores will love that because they're making more off of it. Because they buy it for 50% off, and then it makes it more worth them getting in stock and trying to sell it. So, and I haven't heard any complaints about it being $5.99, and I'm like, wow, that's great if the market can hold that, and people are buying them and flipping them and stuff. And hey, if that's what they want to do, sell them on eBay, that's great. But so people are having some fun with it. So yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm happy.
If you are a fan of classic monsters, if you're a fan of 80s style stories, if you're a fan of science fiction, fantasy, he says all this stuff is going to be there. He-Man, you're a fan of great artwork and great storytelling, go out and get Monsters on your pull list. Put it on that League of Comic Geeks app. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to walk into your store and buy it. I know you hear that all the time, but this book is selling out month to month every time. Get multiple copies. Make sure you check the covers because there's some amazing covers coming out for it. This is a book that I will own multiple copies of each book just for the beautiful covers. I'm excited for a trade because I know when they do a trade, they normally collect all the covers into the trade. that could almost be a trade by itself with nothing but covers. There's so many great covers.
Yeah.
So get out there, check out Mark Spears Monsters, check him out on Amazon, check him out, Mark Spears Monsters store. Get some of those cards, Chris. I'm going to be ordering a set of those cards. I need to see them. They look amazing.
I think I'm gonna get both sets, the Wicked of Oz and the
Yeah.
monsters as
awesome.
well.
Yeah,
So
keep it going, guys. Keep this book going so we can get all 30 issues. And if he wants to continue from there, we'll keep reading. As long as the story is as good as it is, everybody should be reading this book. I labeled this as one of the books that nobody's reading that they should be. But I think I was wrong because a lot of people are reading it and they're excited for it. The buzz is there. So check them out. Check back with us. We'll be back with another creator spotlight, and enjoy the comics, guys.